Okay, we're live. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Grosse Ile Township Board of Trustees regular business meeting. Let's begin with Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
How much longer will you sit in? How much longer will you be able to sit? Good question. Not good question, but not for this. No. Okay, we have 6 members of the board present. Clerk Ranka is excused this evening. At this time, I will entertain any additions or deletions to the agenda.
Mr. Supervisor, I would like to move that approval of check register dated October 10th, 2014 be moved from the consent agenda to an action item simply because I have a couple of questions on it.
Moved by Trustee Budney. Support. Okay, seconded by Treasurer Van Oss. That section of the check register will be moved as an action item for a vote of the board. Any other additions, deletions to the agenda? That would become number 10. Yes, ma'am. Any other additions, deletions to the agenda? All right, with none offered, those in favor of approving the agenda as amended, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? None offered. The agenda stands amended. At this time, we'll move on to public comment. This would be action items only. We have now 10 action items on the agenda tonight. Any member of the public present would like to make a comment pertinent to the agenda items? All right, with none offered, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Treasurer Van Oss.
Yes, Mr. Supervisor, I'd like to make a motion to accept consent agenda 14-083, which now will include the minutes of September 22nd, 2014 regular meeting and approval of the check register dated October 2nd, 2014, removing from the consent agenda check register dated October 10th, 2014.
Support.
Okay, moved by Treasurer Van Oss, seconded by Trustee Budney, with the removal of the one portion of the check register. Discussion among the board? With none offered, those in favor, please signify by saying aye. 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 Opposed? None offered. With the amendment, the consent agenda stands approved. With that, we will step into action items. And as we're sharing this, okay, appointment to the Island Beautification Committee. And bear with me for 1 second. A lot of pages of consent agenda. I'll move that the Grosse Ile Township Board of Trustees appoint Ms. Amy Myers to the Island Beautification Committee for the term length of October 14th, 2014 to March 31st, 2017.
Support.
Okay, moved by the supervisor, seconded by Trustee Budney. Let's see, just quick history on it. Island Beautification Committee has one vacancy to the resignation of Ms. Tilley. Ms. Myers will fill the terms for Ms. Tilley. We have her application, some background on her. I think she's going to be a good fit. Experience, is she here tonight? I can't see the whole room. Apparently not, but with that, is there any questions, comments among the board? With none offered, those in favor of the approval of Ms. Amy Myers to the Island Beautification Committee for the term specified, please signify by saying aye. 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 Opposed? None offered. Well, Ms. Myers, if you're watching at home, thank you for volunteering and help us keep the island beautiful. Move on to action item number 2. Let's see. Mr. Malvesto.
Mr. Supervisor, I'd like to read the proposed motion to recommend the Township Board approve to advertise for bids for audiovisual technology equipment for the Public Safety Building Emergency Operations Center.
Support.
Okay, moved by Trustee Malvesto, seconded by Trustee Budney. And I guess we're going to invite, Mr. Malvesto intends to invite,
We're going to invite.
I can sit down with it.
Which one do I introduce first?
who wants to go?
Chief Forcerelli and Fire Chief Duncan Murdoch.
We both can speak to this.
Sure.
We've been working on this project for well over a year. We're trying to bring our training room and command center up to modern day technology. We're still dealing with about 1999 VCRs, beta, all that kind of stuff. So we want to bring all our equipment up to speed for training and for our command center for computers, audiovisual, speaker system, all that kind of stuff. Actually, it's pretty simple. It's a very advanced home theater system is basically what it is. I guess is what you would call it.
So give us a quick brief, the background. You gave us a background. Is the stuff we have in there is dated. It's not only your training center, but it also becomes the command center for incidents that you would be handling, or incidents that's handled by the entire township board if we have to open up, exercise the emergency response plan. So that is our alternate command post.
Well, it's our connections back to Township Hall through TV. It's got things to do with our radio station, which we just made some recent upgrades to. As part of that, the TV system with the VCRs and all that are really antiquated. You can't even get VCRs anymore. So everything has gone to CD. So we need to make all those upgrades. The sound inside the facility is antiquated, and we need to bring that up to speed. So.
I can just add, if I could just add.
Please keep presenting, because it's going to be expensive.
For the, one of the main new pieces of technology that they have out there now is, as you know, the Emergency Operations Center is at the Township. That's our first place that we would go. So you would be in there, all of you, Mr. Supervisor would be there with both chiefs. The way that the EOC is set up is you want all the chiefs in one room and all the people making the decisions in one room. What they have now today is we can't see live from the scene. And what we have is radios. And this was partly what we did is we test this room every so often, and we got some failure. We got failure on some of our speakers, some of our systems, some of our outgoing phone lines. So we test this every so often. So this gentleman that we spoke to came up with the new technology. He didn't come up, but showed us, presented it to us, the new technology. And one of the items that we really would like, and I'm sure that you would too, is when you're at the scene now, we can FaceTime what's actually happening live back to the whiteboard, and the entire room then sees it live and can make decisions. Before, as you know, on anything like the Autofina incident, and we had a couple other incidents where we had to use the Emergency Operations Center, and we are bound by the radio system. So we have to figure out what they're saying to us, figure it out in our heads, talk about it, and go back. Where now, with this new system that they have, and it's the same thing that they're going to put them in all the schools. It's the whiteboard, the light board system, and you have the projector that's right in front of the board. And this piece of instrument, I call it that because I'm not an IT guy, this piece of instrument, FaceTime comes through it, projects it on the screen, and everybody in the room can see the Autofina cloud, the plume, whatever, just like last time, which we were unable to do. We couldn't see in the Emergency Operations Center what was going on. We had to rely on, and at that time, unfortunately, I was the field commander in the middle of it, trying to relay back what I saw, what I thought it was, and I'm not a chemical engineer, and nor am I some, a meteorologist, so to explain this, what's coming over to them, they had to make decisions by my word over the radio. Now you, myself, and Chief Murdoch will be sitting in that room seeing things live if it's okay to and if we do get something like this. So that's one of the main pieces of technology that's new today, to see what is going on at any scene live. And I think it's quite an advantage for a lot of reasons, but that's part of the equipment. And we had failures in some of the speakers, as I stated earlier. Some of the technology that Duncan was talking about, I had Bob date it. Some is 12 years old, some is 15 years old, and some is 22 years old. Now, I'm not saying if it doesn't work, if it's not broke, why fix it? But the problem is we have things not only broke, but so antiquated that you've got to live in the time you're living sometimes and see what's out there for you and see how much it can help you. The other thing is I'm not just trying to convince you, because I realize that forfeiture money is still money to the township, and I'm on top of that and try to be fiscally responsible as I can, but half of this would be paid for by forfeiture money, and I wouldn't be taking, Chief Murdock, correct me if I'm wrong, but we were going to use the cell tower funds that we get, or the equipment fund, that we get the lease from the cell tower, we get the fund, or the payment, or from him, from his budget. So on the bottom there, I just want to make sure you understand what, I was just trying to explain on there that the PD has no fiscal impact and the FD has it, which means only 50% of that then comes from taxpayers' money. So, and I do count, if we do decide to take it from the, and you okay this rather, just so you know where the funding comes from, that I do count that payments from these cell towers, that's budgeted because it's revenue. We still got to count that as revenue, but it's what we get paid to rent them the cell towers on our property.
Okay, I've got, pull me over with something else, I've got a couple questions.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, and you pretty much answered the first one when, on our paperwork, it has circled no fiscal impact, forfeiture funds, and as Chief, explained, there is fiscal impact from forfeiture funds, it's just money we wouldn't be able to use somewhere else. I'm having trouble thinking of a better place to put this right now. From Chief Murdock's side, he has an equipment account, and this is equipment, the cell tower money goes to maintaining the public safety building. So these are all very the proper purpose for these dollars. Like all emergency equipment, I hope we never have to use it. And just let it sit there and time out, we'll replace it with better stuff when better stuff's available. What's the time frame for this upgrade?
We're going out for bid, so...
Do you mean what,
When do you want
if it's okay?
if we approve it tonight, you go out for your bids, if the bids are good, when do you expect to have this up and running?
Well, June 6th, I'm sorry, I apologize, she did put the wrong on there. I have to go to her tomorrow morning, so after 2 weeks being in the paper, the gentleman that we talked to, this could be in a few weeks if...
He gets it.
The gentleman we worked with Bob Bowe to get what we needed in the new technology, he said within a few weeks after everything is through, and a couple weeks it will take. I have to send this to the paper tomorrow, and then they put the bids in. In 2 weeks they will open it at the clerk's office, and then we'll go from there, and whoever gets it. This gentleman said that his company can do it within a couple weeks.
Okay, so but it wouldn't be out of line to expect maybe you'll have the bugs worked out, and by the beginning of calendar 2015, we might be able to have an exercise and get the board
That's what we're shooting.
Oh, absolutely.
Excellent.
Yeah, this is
To
not...
see how the new equipment works?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Time frame, this Crestron, my screen just went blank too.
Crestron is actually the brains of the system.
Okay.
It's
I've never seen that name before, so that's...
yeah, it's a very popular system. It's used to control all the devices, the overhead cameras, the computers, the whiteboard, everything. And that's done from a, if I'm not mistaken, correct me, Joe, but that's done from a keypad on the wall. So what we'll be getting rid of is our computer sitting there, then we have to run everything through, and it'll all go through now through this Crestron system. It's the brains of the system.
Okay, and just one more at the moment. We're talking about feeds from the scene to the EOC. Is that a secure feed? Is it robust? Is it secure? Can it be jammed? Can it be manipulated?
I don't have the answer to that. If that can be hacked, I don't know.
We did talk about that. Pretty sure it's a secured feed.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure of that.
I mean, we may not have just the dollars for a secure feed, but I sure would prefer it
I
that
would
way.
say anything's hackable, but it's, from what we understand, it's pretty secure.
Okay, Mr. Treasurer?
Correct me if I'm wrong, we're just requesting advertising for bids.
Just for, yes, for bids.
We don't even know what this is, so we're not talking dollars or budgetary figures.
No, there's nothing in dollars. I just put at the bottom, just so you know, if we do get it, what we pay for it with, so you know for the future.
So you will be back.
Oh, yeah, I'd have to come back with another legislative another legislative form in front of you to request the purchase of such and such as this amount of money, and then again, exactly the line item that we would be removing it from, the account numbers.
All right. Other questions from the board?
Chief, does this include a mobile camera?
No, this is from, the live is from all the cell phones that we have. You can do it from any cell phone.
Okay, so this would not include a this does not include a camera that would go to a,
Scene?
as an emergency scene.
He said we don't need a camera because, and I did check, all our supervisors have the same type of cell phones, and they all have the capability to use this.
So they can stream a video through their phone?
Stream
through the-
video and
okay.
save it. It's also saved in the system for later purposes, to critique, to go over to see if something went wrong. It's not just live and it's gone, it's live and saved. And
So we don't, I guess what I was looking at is we don't need another piece of mobile equipment to transport a camera on site. This is the officers.
we use this and it did.
Yes,
We
okay.
use this right here. And we all the detectives and the command staff have the exact same phones, and so do our supervisors. And some of the guys on the road have better phones than us. It's there.
As long as they can all talk to the system.
Yeah.
Joe, you've seen this in operation?
I have seen, when the gentleman came out, showed us what it all does.
Because I'm just wondering if you're using this, the cell phone at a scene, by the time that's transmitted, is that going to be all that good?
There's a second, you mean the time
No,
delay?
not the time, but just what's transmitted, is the picture going to be that good? The quality of it?
He showed us that, yeah, it's pretty clear.
It comes pretty clear, I mean, it's,
All right.
yeah, but there is that second delay, with the FaceTime, there's like a second or whatever, second and a half.
Mr. Malvesta wasn't
Yeah,
quite.
that's all right. But Chief Murdoch, all the fire officers have the same thing, right? The cell phones with the camera and the...
They will. They all have personal phones. They all have the same phone I have. And like he said, some of them have better phones than we have, so.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
So, any other questions, comments from the board? I guess the cell phone is not just for selfies anymore. I mean, we attended a presentation, 2 years ago? Cassidian was starting to talk about
We
this
went to that.
technology.
I do, at DCC?
Yeah, and
Yes.
now it's come back that we
Yes.
have this, everybody's carrying this technology, we're putting it to work for us. I think this
Yeah,
is
they were talking
terrific.
about it 2 years ago, and now it's in. Yeah.
Other questions from the board? All right, with none offered, the motion is to allow you to proceed. I'll see if I can read it precisely. Recommend the Township Board approve the advertising for bids for audiovisual technology equipment for the Public Safety Building Emergency Operations Center. Those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? None offered?
Thank you.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Be a great improvement. Moving on.
Number 3.
What is it? Number 3, Mr. Malvesto.
Mr. Supervisor, I'd like to read the following proposal to cancel and rescind the previous award to Payvex Corporation in the amount of $68,343.47 to construct an ADA-compliant parking lot, ADA-compliant paved access path, and to install an ADA-compliant kayak launch system with transfer bench due to the contractor demand for additional funds due to the delay of the receipt for the construction permit from the state of Michigan, from the Michigan Department of Environmental Quality.
Support.
Okay, moved by Trustee Malvesto, seconded by Treasurer Van Oss. In the background, Mr. Ream will fill us in on what transpired.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Briefly, this project was reviewed as part of the block grant projects for the year. In July, you reviewed a contract award, and after that was issued, 30 days later, the contractor submitted for extras. We still had not received the state of Michigan permit. It was almost $35,000 in extras. So we discussed this change with the block grant folks at Wayne County, and they suggested that we take a look at breaking this project into phases, and they did in fact approve that approach, and we will be seeking proposals for the actual structure itself over the next few months. The original budget was about $70,000, so obviously we didn't feel comfortable in proceeding with those types of extras. So since we took action on award, we need to rescind that, and that's why I'm asking you to do such.
Okay. Questions for our Township Manager, Mr. Ream? Mr. Budney?
Mr. Reed,
Yes, sir.
I applaud you for taking this step and not caving into the gentleman or the company. But if you're going to come back to us for this, I would like to see, along with whatever you bring back to us. I'd like to see some documentation as to the fact that we need what we're going to purchase. The fact that, this project would end up being, somewhere between $70,000 and $100,000. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of maintenance that we're going to have to do, and we should know that we're putting in the proper kayak launch, in this case, for what we need. And I'd just like to see, there hasn't been any evidence prior to this of that. It's just kind of been talked around, and I would like to see you come back, or whoever's going to present it, come back with some evidence that here's what we want to purchase and here's why we have the documents that this is what we need. That's all.
Certainly, you also want an idea of the different phases, not just the bites of the pieces parts.
Right.
Yep, and then
Yeah, I mean, actually, what I'm asking for
the request with all the
takes all
commission.
those bites into consideration.
Understood. Yes, sir.
Because we're going to end up with that final product. I want to make sure that final product is what we need, not just something we want.
Yes, sir.
Other questions, comments from the board?
Mr. Ream?
Yes.
Dale? With the block grant money being used for this project, and Wayne County allowing us to basically nullify this existing contract and we'll be acting as contractors ourselves, am I correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, the monies that have been approved for this project, is there room for change, or does the project have to go through as originally engineered? I'm talking about design, location. Is there any flexibility there, or does it have to go through as originally planned?
Well, I would say flexibility is always possible, but would be very limited. We have a permit from the state of Michigan at a certain location in the shoreline. We have already provided expenditures for soft costs, which were the designs, the permitting, and all of those types of engineering things that we have done. So minor adjustments, I would say, well, certainly if there's things that the commission thinks would make sense for us to address, but to wholesale switch the project, I would say that would probably put the budget completely upside down.
So, and the reason, as you're well aware, I'm fully in favor of kayaking as an activity. You know that. What I'm looking at is if we had to put in a permanent piling as opposed to a removable piling, that would probably be something that we could do without a problem, without getting reapproval.
Yeah, I would think that would be a minor adjustment with the state permit, and could probably start with a simple phone call.
As opposed to reconfiguring the entire floating platform and starting from scratch. So
yes,
a simple addition like that would be, we'd like to assume that would be acceptable, but just so people don't think that we're going to have flexibility to redesign this and relocate it, that's really not.
Yeah, that would put us back.
Okay.
I think it took us nearly 9 months for a permit.
Now, the last thing I'd like to say is we're going to have the entire winter to really go over this, correct?
Yes.
So we should be able to come up with a construction timeline going forward, break this down into increments, different sections of the project itself, and we should be able to come back before spring with a plan in hand and for final approval.
Yes, and I was actually surprised because, as you had said, in a sense, we're taking this project, breaking it apart and doing into pieces, in a sense being somewhat of a contractor. Well, this was suggested to us by Wayne County block grant people. I know some of us had talked about, is this a possibility? And they don't object to this. They gave us all of the sample requests for proposals and their methodology for proceeding with projects like this, because they understand that not all these projects are giant projects, not all of them are real tiny ones, and they all need to be taken different approaches upon and how we can get it done, because we have limited resources, they have limited resources. So they encouraged us to look at this. So at this point, it appears that it will work well.
All right, thank you.
Other questions, comments from the board regarding the kayak launch? All right, with none offered, let's see. I gotta go.
Don't you love it?
There are some limitations to this, and without Eric here to help me, I need to scroll back and wait for this picture to populate itself so I can reread the motion.
Do you need
before
my
we vote on
glasses?
it. Okay. The recommendation is for the Grosseto Township Board of Trustees to cancel and rescind the previous order to Payvex Corporation in the amount of $68,343.47 to construct an ADA compliant parking lot, compliant paved access path, and to install a ADA compliant kayak launch system with transfer bench due to contractor demand for additional funds resulting from the delay of the receipt for the construction permit from the Michigan Department of Environmental Quality. Those in favor of canceling and rescinding, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? None offered. That is, we are therefore rescinding. Moving to action item number 4, Mr. Molesto.
Mr. Supervisor, I'd like to read the following motion, which is to appoint Brandy Boyd as a full-time at-will recreation director at a salary of $60,000 annually, subject to the terms and conditions as detailed in the October 3rd, 2014 letter of offer from the township manager.
Support. Okay, moved by trustee Molesto, who is?
Any of us.
Seconded by trustee Budney. All right, we'll bring back our township manager who has been leading this search. Mr. William.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I want to update the board and the community on the process we followed. As everyone knows, Mr. Rooney announced his retirement in the spring, late June?
Late June.
June. And we advertised this position in the Eel Camera, Grosso.com, Michigan Township Association, Parks and Recreation Association. And we received 20 applications. And we formed a screening committee, which consisted of trustee Molesto, the chairman of the commission, Walt Ketcher, the finance director, the police chief, and myself. And we went through an initial screening. It was basically a resume review where we took off names, anything that had remote identity, and put a number on that, and then we ranked them. And then the group got together and we came up with a short list. So we had interviews for the top 6, and from there we had follow-up meetings. And tonight I'd like to present to you Brandy Boyd for consideration. And as mentioned in the motion, attached is a letter explaining the terms and conditions of the offer. With all new employees, they go through a training period, if you will. And because we know that there are a series of steps that we would like to evaluate and work with the Recreation Commission and potential issues we want to address in the department, that was all laid out in this evaluation period. But it will start with just that, a department review and an improvement plan, which I would assist Ms. Boyd with, and would obviously seek the input of the Recreation Commission, and then from there we'll be able to move forward. All the other items are the standard normal procedures. I know a while back on the retirement front, the board had discussed possibilities of making some changes in a different program for new hires. While obviously it was difficult to discuss with the candidate that we don't know what your retirement program will be, okay? But I did additional research, and this one's, we joke about and call it the Duker Plan, which is the most recent. But what we have is a cap, and I know it's a contribution cap on the township's part, and the different types of programs that we were evaluating through Finance Director Darsnick and our discussions with the state and the MERS people and the evaluation of the different contracts, what we learned was the program that we're in now has a 10% contribution cap, and the industry standard, and I know that's the industry, is over 13%. So I know we want to continue doing our homework and evaluate and study, but we're below that standard right now, which I think is a good thing. And I know from an industry standard issue related to that contribution percentage, it's probably negotiated in contracts. There's a lot of other things. So I wanted to point that out to the board, that I know that was something that you had asked that we addressed, but this is what my recommendation is by doing the homework and having these evaluations or conversations and negotiations. So with that, if there are any questions, Ms. Boyd is here this evening. I'd like to introduce her to you. So just let me know what your thoughts are.
I'll open up to the board. I'll wait to introduce Ms. Boyd, depending if the vote passes. How does that? Right now, I'm going to ask the board for other questions or comments. She might want to beat a hasty retreat, although I certainly hope not. Questions, additional questions, comments from the board?
Yeah, I'm really excited to have Brandy come on board, hopefully for 7 votes here or 6 votes. But something aside is, I noticed that there's a 30-day, or not a 30-day, what is it? Yeah, 3-month, $2,500. Not for this one, but for going forward, I asked that we take a look at that and maybe do 6-month, 12-month, because by 30 days, by the time you learn everybody's names, you don't know whether they're performing or not. So just food for thought.
Certainly.
Yep.
Other questions, comments?
No, I'm very comfortable with this. Mr. Ryan has taken full responsibility to see that Brandy, and she'll have the support of the Recreation Commission as well, is brought up to speed in all aspects of our programs. It is a very face-to-face position with many of the different groups, clubs, whatever, on Grow Seal. So having a good face in front of everybody and being able to work with them is going to be a real asset to us. But Dale's assured us that he's going to work overtime to make sure everything happens.
Okay. Thank you. Hey, Mr. Modesto, Mr. Treasurer.
Yeah, just a couple of comments. As you know, our current Recreation Department is the Tim Rooney Recreation Department. It's been very successful to this point. And I personally am looking forward to it being the Brandy Boyd Recreation Department. We will give her all the support we can give her. She's got a great commission behind her, and she's got a pretty strong board in front of her, so I wish her the best.
Thank you, Mr. Treasurer. Mr. Budney.
As everybody knows, maybe Brandy doesn't, but I had some misgivings. I feel what we need in this township is strong management, and as we replace heads, I wanted to see strong management, and I wasn't sure about you. But as Tom said, Mr. Ryan has taken it upon his shoulders to say that you will be a strong manager.
Yes, sir.
And I'll be watching Dale, and I will give you my full support.
Thank you, Mr. Budney. Other questions, comments from the board?
Just a brief one, Mr. President. Thank you. Brandy, your name has been discussed a lot, and we've looked very, very hard at you. I do know that the way that you were picked was scientific. I know that the way you were picked made good sense. And based upon the pickings of people that I know and trust, you'll also get my full support, so you get an A vote here. And Dale, And all of you on the committee, thank you for bringing Brandy to us.
Thank you, Mr. Posiask. Other questions, comments?
Still slated for a 27th start?
Yes.
And when will she get her email? I got to write her something.
Trying to get her to start sooner. 27.
Great.
This is going to be one of the most important decisions we've made. The owners, the residents have entrusted us with their tax dollars to preserve a recreation department, I think second to none for a township of this size. We're not a particularly big community, and I like to think in terms of recreation, we offer everything except alpine skiing, and we're working on that. So as we reviewed the other day, the number of programs that we offer, it's just, I was amazed. I knew a lot of them. I knew about a quarter of them, that some have a big following, some have a small following, but all of them add to this community, make living here a better experience, add to the value of our properties. So with that, move on. It's time to proceed with this. I'm going to go with a roll call vote because this is an extremely important vote, a lot of tax dollars involved, and the future, a lot of the future. So I'm going to begin with a roll call vote. I'll begin with myself. Supervisor votes aye. Move to Treasurer Van Oss.
Aye.
Trustee Posiask.
Aye.
Trustee Smith.
Aye.
Trustee Budney.
Aye.
And Trustee Malvesto.
Aye.
The motion carries unanimously. At this time, Mr. William, if you would you introduce Ms. Boyd, please, to the community?
If we knew we were going to do it this way, I would have had arrangements for some music to start playing. Drum roll, please. Brady, please come forward. I want to introduce you to Brandy Boyd. Brandy is a graduate from Central Michigan and has a master's in recreation management, has experience in several recreation departments, all at different levels. As I like to say, climb the ladder, and is here before you tonight with my confidence. And I know that Mr. Rooney has very, very big shoes to fill. That it was said that Tim Rooney it was Tim Rooney department in many ways, many ways, and that we're looking forward to being Brady Boyd. And I have the confidence that you will do just that. So welcome, and I want to introduce you to the board and the community. Please introduce yourself.
Well, thank you for having me here tonight, and I didn't realize I was going to speak after the vote, so thank you for voting me in. Dale asked me to say a few words about my experience, and he just recapped half of it. But I do have a master's in recreation and administration, and my bachelor's is in parks and recreation management. I have 18 years of full-time experience in various size departments, anywhere from a two-person, $500,000 budget to 100 full-time employees to a $30 million budget, and everything in between. So I do bring a lot of experience, but above all, I bring a passion for what I do, and I think that shows in my work, and I look forward to being a part of this community and utilizing my education experience and my enthusiasm for the township. So thank you for having me. I look forward to working with you.
Okay. Well, Ms. Boyd, welcome aboard. Expect to work real hard.
Yeah, only
Any other caveats for Ms. Boyd?
No, just welcome, and look forward to working with you.
Yeah, 8 months to Island Fest.
Okay.
It comes fast.
Ms. Boyd, thank you so much. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on, we're at, let's see, action item number 5. I'll ask Mr. Posiask, please.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Action item number 5 is the approval of the Grosse Township email retention policy.
Support?
Okay, moved by Trustee Posiask, seconded by Trustee Smith. This was Mr. Posiask, do you want to develop this a little bit? Do you want me to run with it?
No, I'd be happy to. The fact of the matter is that we don't do everything in pencil and paper anymore. Electronic mail and record keeping is very important, and it's important in personal operations, and it's even more important in business and in government. We have seen missteps in government that have cost people thousands of dollars in fines and many years of jail terms recently, and we don't need that here. We have a package that's been put together by our township clerk and his assistant based upon a state of Michigan template, and it's a nice template. It does talk about retention and disposal schedules and about what to save and what not to save. And I think that it's going to have its, time to digest for everyone, but the purpose is to make sure that we're bulletproof when it comes to things like this.
Thank you, Mr. Posiask. Again, as I mentioned, this was the topic of our study session. We reviewed the proposed records retention, and as Mr. Posiask said, we filled in the blanks and made some improvements on a state-recommended template. And once again, this is the way we need to do business to preserve records, to ensure that you have honest, open government. The stuff will be made available should you desire to, or have us retrieve it if you need it under FOIA. There's nothing is being swept away. It'll all be available. This policy gets us all up to the same level of understanding on what we need to save, how long we need to save it, how we need to save it. So I want to, as Mr. Posiask said, thank you, Clerk Ranka, for running with this, taking these steps to get us up to speed, acknowledging we are in the electronic age. That's how most of the communication is done, and we're going to do it properly. Other comments from the board? All right, with none offered, those in favor of adopting the Grosse Township Records Retention Policy for electronic mail as recommended, provided by the State of Michigan Records Management Services Department, to amend the Grosse Township Policies and Procedures Manual to include this approved Grosse Township electronic mail retention policy dated October 13th, 2014. Those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? None offered? Thank you very much. We are, again, a great tool to help us work properly. With that, action item number 6, Mr. Budney.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Based on the recommendation of the DPS Commission, I put forth a motion asking for your support of the list dated September 12th, 2014, as prepared by the Charles E. Raines Company for the 2015 and 2016 Wayne County Local Partnering Initiative for Township Roads.
Support.
Okay, moved by Trustee Budney, seconded by Trustee Smith. Continue, please.
Yes, a little background on this. This has been around, it's been in the newspapers. Actually, it came out right before the election, where Wayne County miraculously found $14 million that it wanted to give to the townships to work on their non-primary roads. Groseal's portion of that is $1 million, $500,000 in 2015 and $500,000 in 2016. We have to match at 20%, so we have to put up $100,000 each year. But that'll give us $600,000 to work on our non-primary, all our little residential roads. Actually, if anybody was watching the last meeting, the chairman of the DPS Commission made a presentation. We had a list of the 2015 projects and a list of the 2016 projects given to the board, asked for any changes or input. Having not gotten any, we're coming here today asking for your support simply because we are going to be spending $100,000 of our own money each year, but I think it's well worth it because very rarely do we get that kind of money from Wayne County, and almost never do we get money to work on our side roads, our non-primary roads. So this our program that we've come up with covers from one end of the island to the other. Every area will get touched. It may be chip seal, it may be new concrete in places. There won't be any well, I shouldn't say there won't be any, very little of tearing up a whole road and replacing it, but we will be able to do a lot of good to a lot of areas with this. And the cost to us, $100,000 to get $500,000, we thought is well worth it.
Okay, thank you, Trustee Buddy. Mr. Treasurer.
Jim, would you explain to the audience where that 100,000 is coming from?
I would.
Our 100,000?
Our portion.
Our 100,000 is, we discussed either taking it out of our road money for the road millage that we have already, which is a .4, or possibly borrowing it from ourselves. We have some money in funds that we could borrow it from ourselves and pay it back. We're probably looking at using it out of the road fund because we'd still have money left over from that.
No tax impact?
No tax impact whatsoever.
Thanks.
It's all internal.
Interestingly, there were several meetings held at Canton Township, where some of the townships were wondering where they were going to come up with their matching portion. I've got to hand it to our voters. With our road millage, we had the matching portions in place. Wasn't an issue with us. We knew we had our match, waiting for Wayne County's portion, and we were ready to go to work. So again, we have for a small community, we're very proactive and a very, I'm going to call them enlightened bunch of residents who know that they're willing to contribute to get their roads fixed, and now Wayne County's coming up, so we are in a good position to move forward with this. I'm pleased with that. We don't have to go scraping and begging.
Yeah, if I may, we annually take a road tour. The DPS Commission takes a road tour. For this project, we took a second road tour and drove almost every road on the island. Again, knowing that it wasn't primary roads, we couldn't touch East River or Meridian or Parkway, things like that. We went into all the subdivisions, and our criteria, what we looked at was where could we get the most bang for the buck? How could we touch the most residents with these projects for the dollars we were spending? So that's what we wanted to do. That's what these projects do. And did I just say do?
You did.
But we hit every part of the island, north to south. Everybody will see something. If it's not your street, it'll be a street that you drive on. So it's pretty widespread.
All right, Mr. Posiask.
20 years ago, Mr. Supervisor, Rosedale Township had a roads village for repairing secondary roads. It was its dedicated purpose for the roads village. Went away a few years ago. We lost that funding source for a while. And, this township's residents recognized that was a mistake. And they voted us a 4/10 of a mil, if I recall right, roads village. And that's where that match money is coming from. But it's not, again, to fix your primary roads. It's to fix the roads that attach to your driveways. The ones that are in the townships, the ones that are most desperately in need. We didn't have the money to do that, and now it looks like we will have some again. And 3 cheers and my compliments to the Road Commission.
Thank you, Mr. Posiask. Other questions, comments from the board? Mr. Malvesto?
Jim, Mr. Budney.
Tom, yes, Mr. Malvesto.
You and myself have had this conversation before, and I know this is basically a 2-year project, correct?
Correct.
By voting in favor of this tonight, is this a chiseled in stone?
The 2015 is in Wayne County's budget, so that I would say that's chiseled in stone. 2016.
I'm sorry. Okay, 2016.
Yeah.
You know specifically the one the item I'm speaking of, the 1,700 yards of concrete, that project. On the second year.
Can you be a little more specific, Tom?
Yes, I will. If I turn it like this, it's going to flip over on me, right?
Yeah.
Yep. There it goes. In the second year, it was the court, 1,700 yards of concrete for LaSalle Court.
Okay, yes.
All right, that's the only one I question, just based on the fact that it's a very short, non-throughway street. That was my only...
All right, and we looked at that, and as I said, we looked at projects, and I only mentioned half. I said we looked for the biggest bang for our buck. The other thing that we looked at was how deteriorated the roads were. But we still put the biggest bang for the buck up front, and then we put, if it was just a deteriorated road, which LaSalle Court, quite truthfully, is one of the worst, probably one of the worst roads on the island, but it only services 7 to 9 houses, depending on how you look at it. So that came in the second year, and that's how that's there.
And that's why I was asking if this was, I appreciate all the work that went into, but I was asking, if this was actually a voting for this evening as it's presented to us, if it's, as I say,
yeah, as far as our projects,
okay,
this is in concrete. I mean, this is what we're going to do. In looking at it, I mean, people might say, and as some of us on the commission said, well, we don't want to do that first, it's only 7 people. But regardless of whether it's 7 people or 70 people, they are all tax-paying residents, and they all deserve something, and that's why that project is on there.
Thank you, Mr. Budde. Other questions, comments from the board? All right, with none offered, those, let's see, those in favor of, based on the recommendation of the DPS Commission, supporting the list dated September 12, 2014 is prepared by the Charles Raines Company for the 2015 and 2016 Wayne County Local Partnering Initiative for Township Roads. Those in favor, please signify by saying aye. 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 Opposed? None offered? Yes, we get to fix some roads. Okay, with that, we'll move on to action item number 7, the Oak River Special Assessment. And as I scroll through the project list and the map. Okay. I recommend the Grosse Township Board of Trustees adopt the revised Oak River Drive District Special Assessment Roll, reducing the per unit cost from $6,115.03 to $5,039.64 due to lower project costs, which reflects a savings of $1,075.39 per unit. Support. Okay, moved by the supervisor, seconded by Trustee Budde. Yeah, that's a significant reduction on a special assessment district. Okay, the background, if you've been following this, we hold public hearings on special assessment districts. This is a rebuild of the Oak River Road. I think Chief Porcerelli is one of the experts on this project, but I'll just go through the history here. On April 1st, 2013, petitions were received by the township from the residents. 81% of the residents. We need 51% to follow state law. So they were in support of it. DPS director, manager, finance director, and Charles E. Raines, Sahal Sabak, met with the residents to discuss the paving on May 13th, 2013. The Board of Trustees reviewed the petition for Oak River Drive residents and accepted by the Township Board. The Township Engineer was authorized to proceed with plans, estimates for improvements. On July 22nd, public hearing number 1 was set for August. We set it for August 12th. On August 12th, public hearing was held. Township Board approved a resolution creating the Oak River Drive Special Assessment District, and the engineer was authorized to proceed to design, develop, and secure final plans and estimates for cost of the road improvements. March 10th, public hearing number 2 was held. Following that, monies received from Oak River Association amount of $100,000 towards the total cost of the project. Paving project to be completed summer of 2014. Has it been completed?
Yes.
Excellent. Well, that's how we knew what the final cost was. Final project cost significantly less. So, special assessment districts are convoluted, but they work, and that's one of the things this township does offer. How you can get your roads fixed if you're a private road, or you just can't wait for county funds to show up. Questions, comments from the board?
Just a comment.
Treasurer.
I thought the numbers were reversed. Not often do you see a project come in below the engineered fee. I mean, it was really great. It almost deserves a bronze plaque on the corner, Joe.
I think it's the first I've seen. But for that, I'll say, well done. Mr. Bell.
Just some noted information. The final cost being $5,039.64. That's just to be clear, that's the total per resident on there for over 15 years. So it's about a $335 a year on your taxes.
Was that the old?
It was whatever popped up.
Okay. Mr. Lopez had a figure, but basically, take that number.
The 5,000 divided by 15, so.
And it says assigned to your property taxes, so it's manageable to have a good road. Questions, comments from the board on finalizing that assessment, the revision? None offered. Those in favor of approving the revised Oak River Drive Special Assessment District rule, reducing the per unit cost from, I love saying it, reducing, from $6,115.03 down to $5,039.64. Please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, of course, none offered. That motion carries, and those rolls are reduced. With that, Mrs. Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I get the fun one. I'd like to make a motion to approve the hours between 6 p.m. and 8 p.m. on Friday, October 31st, 2014, for the purpose of Halloween trick-or-treating in Groseal Township.
Support.
Okay, moved by Trustee Smith, seconded by Trustee Budney. Some background, or I'll give it background. It's something
going on for years.
It's something we do every year for the township to establish when we're going to honor our official trick-or-treating hours. This gives residents the time to know when the kids are going to be out. Lets me put out some safety tips to people, watch out for the little goblins. And it's something we just have to do every year. So some communities will pick a different date. We've traditionally always done it on Halloween Eve. Again, some communities will pick it to do it on a weekend, but we do it on the 31st. Questions, comments from the board? All right, none offered. Those in favor, please, of approving the official trick-or-treat hours for this Halloween between 6 p.m. and 8 p.m. on Friday, October 31st, 2014, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? None offered. That will be trick-or-treating time. And lastly, action item number 9, Mr. Van Oss.
Certainly. Based on the recommendation of the Airfield Commerce Park Manager, the Groseal Township Board, and the Airport Commerce Park Commission, by the way, request authorization to proceed with purchasing and installation of the doors and windows on the east end of Hangar 1 through Doors, Windows contracted to Rochester Hills Contracting and Glazing. Project not to exceed $76,385 plus a 10% contingency fee of $7,638.
Support.
Okay, moved by Treasurer Van Oss, seconded by Trustee Bundy. And I guess we're going to hand it off to our...
Well, I'll just make a couple of comments.
You can start then.
This is a bright spot. We've been working on this building for a couple of years now. It's been in the works for 25. It's been deteriorating for 25. We finally moved forward with the project, putting in new roofs. We've had the contamination remediation done, this being partially the last phase to put the new windows. We haven't fully decided on what doors we're going to put in yet, but one of them is at least part of this cost. We have a tenant that's very eager to occupy this space. We're negotiating currently with the police department. And another tenant, so we're really anxious to get this done, get it put up and move forward. The only remaining objects here will be, of course, when our new tenant comes in, depending on his demands and needs, we'll probably have to put some air conditioning and heating in the building, or issue winter coats and shorts. And this particular facility has sat idle and an eyesore to this township for as long as I've been here, 25, 30 years. Well overdue, long time overdue. And with the new tenant moving in, I think it'll be a real asset to the community.
Thank you, Mr. Treasurer. Turn it over to Mr. Duker at this time.
Just to add to that, this is really, again, what Mr. Treasurer said, the kind of finish making well in terms of the building weather tight. We've done the masonry work, the brand new roof on the building. The last step is really to put new windows in as the ones currently leak and have some contamination that need to be finished up on them. There's 17 windows in total. My intent with this project is to have the match Township Hall with the interior simulated lights, the tinting in the window, and the color on the aluminum trim. So I want it to be a kind of a smooth flow between the two buildings. Everything should match. With that, the specs were developed with the township engineer. He reviewed the final submittal from Rochester Hills Contract Glazing and agreed that it met our specs and qualifications and was okay with the company. So I hope everything goes well with it, and this will kind of be like the last phase like Mr. Treasurer discussed, and hopefully we'll have a tenant in there.
Okay. Looking at the proposals from the two contractors, I was glad to see they were pretty close.
Very close.
Which means there's nothing suspicious or nothing that causes me to scratch my head when I see both their bids are fairly close. One was lower than the other, and their credentials look really good. I'm so pleased that we're taking care of this half of our building that's been between underutilized, unutilized, and neglected for the 6 years I've been in here, and I'm just tickled that we have a tenant for it. We're going to fix it, we're going to stabilize it, we're going to save this historic structure, and I love my office, so I'm glad we are where we are, and I'm just tickled that we're going to preserve this building and get some revenue out of it. So, other questions, comments from the board?
Yep.
Mrs. Smith?
Mike, what about restrooms? I know if you're going to have tenants in there, it's going to require some sort of restrooms. Is that going to be coming down the pike at some point?
Let me address this. Because of the way this facility is used, there are avidly going to have to be restrooms in the building for the tenant. Mm-hmm. But we will probably be back, talk to Ohio, and probably come back and maybe enhance those facilities so they can be used for Island Fest and stuff like that, for functions out there.
Bank of 30?
It could be that. But of course, that would take some general fund money as well as that money, but with them participating and us participating, maybe a good opportunity. But we do plan on looking at that.
Okay, and then what about tenant improvement allowance? I know you mentioned potential renovations. Do you guys have anything budgeted or put aside or thoughts as far as what they're looking for?
The potential tenant has very little needs. I mean, they require an open space for their type of business, so really HVAC and a restroom is and a clean facility is about it. And they don't, 110 outlets, very simple electrical use.
You don't have to get into walls and that kind of stuff.
Great.
Doesn't require a neat finish or anything.
Great.
Other questions, comments for Mr. Duker?
To add, the only other comment I have is the final price of the $76,385, where we get that from is the Rochester Hills Contract Glazing. It's their base price. And the one thing I did add in there is 3 windows to have vents openings on them. One thing I've learned in this building without having any vents in the windows is it gets very hot on the second floor on a sunny day. So I did put 3 windows in there to open.
Can I get a vent for one of my windows?
Well, it better not get hot in there because the air conditioner will be down.
Or do those windows have screens so no birds can come in?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Stuff I wish would have been
$100 for screens.
Stuff I wish would have been brought up, 14 years ago when we rehabbed this end of the building, but
lesson learned.
Yep.
No, we tried.
Other questions, comments for Mr. Duker? Okay, with none offered, those in favor of the bid award for east side of Hangar 1 windows and doors, on the recommendation of the Airfield Commerce Park Manager, Township Board, to award the east side of Hangar 1 windows and doors contract to Rochester Hills Contract Glazing at a project cost not to exceed $76,385 plus a 10% contingency of $7,638. Those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? None offered? That motion carries, and well done, Mr. Dicker. Let's get...
Thank you very much. Hopefully we'll get a tour in when the building's completed.
Great, thank you. Looking forward to it. Okay, with that, we'll move on to the amended agenda, and action item number 10, requested by Trustee Budney.
Yes.
Let's put it in the form of a motion just to discuss that has to be approved.
That check register has to be approved.
Okay, the motion will be to approve the check register after discussion. Okay, thank you.
1010.
Yep.
Is that good enough? Second?
Fine, second.
That's the ultimate motion. First of all, I apologize for having to take this time at the meeting to do this, but this is the procedure we have to do, take it out of the consent agenda to put it in an action item to talk about it. And unfortunately, because of the way we get our packets, there isn't a lot of time. This packet was 102 pages, and there isn't a lot of time for us to go through it and get back and ask people. I would have much rather be asking my questions downstairs rather than this, but having said that, I thought this item that jumped out at me was something that had to be questioned. And I'll ask Ann to start. I don't think I'll end up with her, but I'll start with you, Ann. On the invoice distribution list for 1010, which is page 2 of 9, we have under grounds and maintenance, and actually I guess it's maintenance, building, and grounds, we have invoices number 1966 through 1973, which is 7 invoices. Why those are private properties? So my first question is, why are they in our grounds and building maintenance and not under DPS or community development?
Okay, they're just there for grounds and maintenance. Grounds and maintenance usually for just local. It's just a place to store them until we get it reimbursed from the taxing unit. So it's just a place where we put them until we assess the taxpayer, and then we'll reimburse that account back. So
the payment of the invoices, is that out of the general fund, or is that out of a community development's budget, or?
Just general maintenance right now.
Okay, yep. Okay, so that's why it's there.
Yep.
Again, those are private residents. We had, I take you now to check register, the check register for 1010, page 3, which has those same items.
Correct.
Check number 51534 is what I'm talking about, vendor 4339. We have in place a process for this type of service where the invoices are supposed to be submitted by the end of the month, and there's supposed to be documentation showing before and after. In this case, we have invoices that are dated in June that he just got in now. I want to know why we're approving them. And I might as well add, the documentation, except for one, was not there. We have seven properties that weren't documented or put in timely, and six of the seven properties weren't documented properly, and none of them were put in timely. I just want to know, since we have that process there and the vendor is aware of it, why we're paying these amounts when he's not following the process. And I don't know that, my other question was going to be who approved them. I know you didn't approve them, you just pay them. I'm not sure who approved them, and that's one of my questions.
They were inspected by the ordinance officer who makes sure that it's done, and as far as I knew, there was documentation that each bill had 6 or 7 pages. I didn't go through it specifically.
Well, and the way I caught on to this, I happened to be there when he had them during a meeting I was having with him, and he showed them to me, and I know the documentation wasn't there. Most of them, like I say, the one had the documentation before and after, the other ones either had a before or an after or none. And I don't understand, and I guess I never will understand why we have processes and yet we don't follow them. Now, if anybody, and I also know, unless the ordinance officer changed his mind, he did not approve them. Dale.
Actually, I reviewed those myself, along with the ordinance officer and Carol in my office who does the assessments, and they coordinate those cuttings. There was documentation with them, and I thought it was complete. I recall it being complete. Actually, I think there were 3 bills we pulled that we would not pay that were not appropriate, I will. So I can backtrack those, but I was the one that approved those.
I would ask you to go back and look. I think you're going to find that he's got part documentation and not full. And this has been going on. You and I talked about this. I talked about it with the ordinance officer, and if we're going to have a process, we have to make our vendors comply. We can't let them run the ship. And I made my comment earlier about management, and this is what I mean about it. When we have a process and we don't follow it, I just don't like to see that. Aside from that, I have no problem approving this check register. That's the only questions I had. Thank you.
Mr. Treasurer. I've had a discussion with the contractor involved about time and process of invoices. And with all of these contractors that we deal with, I think part of what he says is correct. We need to, and I'm sure it's not negligence on their part or anybody's part. Basically, we get a little complacent with this kind of stuff, he mows lawns and throws it in his truck and gets it out of his truck. And I used to scream at my guys all the time for doing that. So, but I think we need to tighten that ship, especially with this contractor, because he's got a history.
I have a question. As far as at the end of the year, if contractors haven't paid their bills, what's the process then? I mean...
You mean if they haven't submitted
if they haven't submitted their bills, I mean, do we continue to pay them into the following year, or do we just say, thank you very much, you've basically donated your service?
A comment on this. This particular contractor understands that when the bills go forward to Wayne County, when taxes go forward to Wayne County, anything that is backdated beyond that, he'll never get paid for it. Because we don't, if we can't submit it to Wayne County to pay us, then we're not going to give it to him. Because all this is just a rollback to us.
Yeah, exactly.
Final comments, Mr. Modesto?
Just one thing, and it seems to me that it's far simpler and more inconvenient to adhere to the agreed upon policy and get paid in a timely fashion than it is to backtrack and wait for payment. I know when you pay your employees' wages up front and you're waiting to be reimbursed 3 months down the road, I would find that a far greater inconvenience. So following the accepted procedure up front would simplify this, and there wouldn't be a lot of time wasted rehashing, going back over it.
Thank you, Mr. Modesto. Other comments from the board? Okay, with none offered, those in favor of approving the check register from the consent agenda as published, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? None offered. The check register is approved. The consent agenda is completed. And that completes our action items. We'll move on to the clerk's report. In Mr. Ranka's absence, his deputy, Mrs. Gray, will enlighten us. A lot of election stuff.
Good evening. Yes, a lot of election stuff. Just some bullet points here. Sample ballots are available for preview on www.groseal.com/clerks page and at www.michigan.gov/SOS voter information. Additionally, a limited number of paper copies of the ballot are available at the clerk's office. Those are sample ballots, by the way. Absentee ballots are currently available in the clerk's office for those qualified voters who request them prior to 2 p.m. on Saturday, November 1st. Absentee ballots may also be voted in the clerk's office until 4 p.m. on Monday, November 3rd, and those ballots may not leave the office on that date. When requesting an absentee ballot in person, please be prepared to provide photo identification to the clerk's staff under Michigan election law. Voted absentee ballots must be received in the clerk's office by 8 p.m. on Election Day, Tuesday, November 4th. Those ballots will be counted throughout the day on Election Day by our absentee voter counting board. Voters who usually vote in precinct number 3 or precinct number 4 at the VFW Hall on Macomb Street will instead vote at St. James Episcopal Church on East River Road for this November election. The voting location for future elections has yet to be determined. That's all I have for tonight.
Thank you, Mrs. Gray. We'll move on to the treasurer's report.
Thank you,
Mr. Van Oss.
The investment report for the month of August shows $7,241,533 and some change. Invested in various accounts, made a whopping $1,800 and... Wow. That's a big number there. That was a good time. I believe that should be $1,871 in interest. There was a time when we made $1 million in interest not too long ago.
Oh, my.
The 2014 summer tax bill will be due, is now past due, and we have collected the majority of the tax rolls. Collection reports show 96% of all taxes have now been collected. We continue to collect summer tax payments with a late penalty of 2%. As of November 1st, a 3% penalty will be assessed. Late payments cannot be accepted at the local banks and credit unions. Please stop by our office for an accurate penalty amount. If you have any inquiries, you can go to groseal.com. We've now added an online payment option, the ability to pay for taxes, bike path pavers if you have to buy them, fire department ambulance fees can now be paid, and you go to the township treasurer and you can click onto that. And our meeting is next Monday? Week from Monday. That's Commerce Park, and I have nothing else.
Thank you, Mr. Treasurer. Move on to trustee and liaison reports, and we will begin with Mrs. Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. First off, I want to say, Sharon, you've got a nice soothing voice. You could probably work for NPR. Anyway, as everyone knows, this past Saturday was the Township Centennial Celebration, and we had an absolutely gorgeous day to celebrate. And from the looks of it and from the people I've talked to, everybody had a great time. There were numerous photos taken of the event, and they are posted on the Island Fest Facebook page. And that's all due to our rock star commission secretary and event marketer, Nicole Finney. And if you have not already liked us on our Facebook page, please do so, as it really is an excellent source of information. I want to thank the Festival Commission for their hard work and the planning and coordination of the event. I also want to thank the Township Board as well as the DDA for their financial support. Additionally, I want to thank Tammy Taylor and the folks at the Historical Society. I really think that they did a wonderful job in putting together some really unique events within the event, as well as purchasing the banners that line Macomb Street and that are still up today. I'd like to thank the EO Camera, specifically Lena and Barb, for putting together a really nice insert, and I'm not sure if anybody, hopefully they didn't miss it, but I have a copy here if you want to take a look at it. Big thanks to all of the local businesses who participated, the churches and nonprofits who went out of their way to really create their own events. I really hope that they were able to promote their own services and products and hopefully gain some new customers out of that. We couldn't have done this without all the different township departments supporting us from the background who helped us make it all happen, including but not limited to the DPS department, the great kids at the rec department. I mean, those kids are just workhorses. It's amazing. And in the finance department for keeping us all of our money straight. Everybody over at GITV, I saw the folks over there out there filming, so at some point I'd love to see that footage. Dale, Carol, Chief Porcerelli, and Chief Duncan from Public Safety. Also want to thank all of the volunteers who came out and assisted, whether it was setting up, tearing down, or working the event itself. But mostly, I really want to thank Chad Novak, our chairman. If it were not for his diligent hard work, his enduring passion, as well as his patience, to be quite honest, I don't think that this event actually would have gone off without him. He really embraced the idea of this event from the very beginning, and it was, put into the laps of our commission only a few months ago. So on top of Island Fest, it was a little stressful, but we managed to make it through. He pretty much ran with it and was unwavering in the face of a lot of obstacles, believe it or not. But Chad truly is just a key member of this commission and the community, and personally I want to thank him for that, for his attentiveness and dedication. So unfortunately he's not here tonight, but
probably recovering.
Yeah, still, yeah, exactly. I'm really not sure where he gets his energy, but I want whatever it is. The next Festival Commission meeting is actually this Wednesday at 7 p.m. Everybody's invited to come on out and talk with us and give us some ideas for next year, although we're only doing the Centennial Celebration once. On another good note, the Communications Commission is going to be launching the much-anticipated website, hopefully the first week of November. Kathy Walker, Ted Fournier, and the department heads at the township are putting together all the finishing touches on their content to make sure that everything is up to date and correct. I'm sure we're all really looking forward to a site that's going to be more progressive, more intuitive, and efficient. So that completes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Smith. Let's move on to Mr. Budney.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Supervisor. First of all, I'd like to thank Lauren for the hard work that she did. She thanked everybody. Well, she did. It still takes leadership, and thank you for your efforts. I think 100 years for this island is well worth doing something, and I'm glad you were the one at the head of this festivities. DPS meeting tomorrow, ZBA on the 28th. We have 2 appeals, so start getting your popcorn and pop. Please come by and watch everything that transpires. I just want to say something about our ordinance enforcement program, which actually is going along very well. To date, we've closed 61 cases. We've had to issue 3 tickets, and all those tickets were taken care of before we had to go any farther. So we've had very decent response to the various issues we've been looking at. For October, a good number of people out there got an advisory notice, and we're going to tackle one of the issues that brought about, quite truthfully, this whole idea of redoing our ordinance enforcement, and that's the parking and storage of boats, RVs, and trailers. We sent out 263 advisory notices. Basically, we drove the island, and wherever we saw a trailer that was illegally parked, they got an advisory notice asking them to take care of it. Well, those advisory notices ended up getting us, before we went out and issued one notice, about 60 or 70 calls. Most people not understanding what the ordinance was, which is fully what I expected. But except for a couple, saying that it would be taken care of, and we have noticed that a number of them have been taken care of already. But the notice did tell them that you cannot have a trailer, RV, or boat parked in your front yard. What a lot of people don't understand is if you have waterfront property, you have 2 front yards. You don't have a rear yard. So you can either put it on the side of your house or in the garage, or you have to store it. You can't have it in the front yard, though. Our notices are starting to go out this week for those people. We did find that a good number of the people who had violations and got the advisory notice, it would be simply moving it from their front drive to the side of their house, or in some cases the rear of their house if they had a rear of the house, and that'd be taken care of. Tony will be out there. We will be issuing notices, and that's what we'll be looking for. Either move it or store it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Budney. Excuse me, move to Mr. Posiask.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. You didn't forget me this month. The 2 commissions that I work with are the Greenways Open Space Committee and the Bike Path Committee, and both of them have been very active and doing some significant things. There's a fellow in the audience by the name of Woody Clark, who I'm not going to take away any of his thunder, to talk about a wood cutting event and about this weekend's Dump the Junk, Find a Treasure. Both, I think we'll give him credit for creating both of those events, and we'll let him come up here and brag about them, okay? Bike Path Committee is coming up this coming Tuesday. I want to tell you that the fountain dedication took place at the end of September. Nicely attended. I was surprised to see as many people as were there. I was expecting some, but not as many as we got. Thank you to the Island Roadrunners once again for donating that good-looking fountain. Thank you for the Bike Path members who worked hard to sell bricks. And Mr. Van Oss, your notice about online payment for bricks doesn't come lightly with me, because I want to let you know that we are able to sell you bricks still through February 14th. That's the day before my birthday. So when you remember my birthday, remember to buy a brick. All right? And I would like it to be recognized for what it is. It's a beautiful tribute to the community. Many of us contribute time and money and perspiration and effort and otherwise idle hours to this community. But this is one place where you can make a donation and have your name out there forever. And if you've gone by there, there is a little work left to be done. The bricks were laid down, and as with the weather and the soil conditions here, one corner of them sank a little bit more than the other corner, so they kind of looked a little crummy. But I've talked to the contractor. He will fix that, and it'll be a very pretty site when it's completed. By next spring, there'll be flowers around it, and things will look great there. Don't forget about buying bricks. It's $50 for a nice brick with anything you'd like to put on it, and I'm the censor, so call me. The Halloween parade coming up, I would be remiss if I didn't tell you that this year there will be bikes in it, and that's something new. So Jane Figel's working hard on that, trying to get it coordinated, and I'm sure that we're going to give Brandy heartburn that morning with those bikes, but that's all right, it'll be fun. That's all of my reports here.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Posiask, and no, I did not forget Trustee Malvesto.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. First off, there's a little scheduling issue, so Chief Murdoch is going to reschedule our monthly fire commission meeting, but as always, it will take place. Number 2, we have not had a rec commission meeting, so I don't have anything to offer there, but I do want to personally thank, or not thank, but welcome Brandy to our family. You'll find that being associated with Grosse Ile, you become part of a large family. There's nothing that happens that everybody else doesn't know about. Yeah, forewarned is forearmed, right? No, thank you very much. Looking forward to working with you. Looking forward to sitting down and having a nice talk with you and get some things rolling. Other than that, I'm not sure if this is appropriate or not, but when Dale, on your report, would it be appropriate to give us a little, I don't want to say an update, but an overview of the proposed event at the airport hangar?
Sure, I can update you.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Modesto. That'll conclude the trustees' reports, and you see I can cover a bunch of odds and ends here. First of all, I want to start out with the notification for everyone that Ed Phillips, who is the former DPW manager, passed away on October 8th of 2014. Ed was hired on September 1st, 1961, and when the Navy was still here, and retired on May 1st, 1993. 31 years, 8 months of service. He was DPW manager for over 22 years. Services are scheduled for October 18th at 10:30 a.m. at St. James Episcopal. Please keep Ed Phillips' family in your thoughts and prayers. And I'm going to ask for he was a member of the Township family for a long time. So I'm going to ask for just a moment of silence here. Remember, it's Ed Phillips and all he had done for this community. So from the Township family, thank you. Thanks, Ed, and thanks to your family. Moving on, Westcroft Gardens prevents their 14th annual Phantom Forest Hayrides every weekend through October 26th. Contact Westcroft Gardens at 676-2444. Trustee Posey alluded to the Halloween parade. It's going to be the 25th of October at 10 a.m. Bikes will be in at this time. Bring your costumes, put your pets in costumes, it's a lot of fun. Ms. Boyd, your first project, we'll grade you on your performance in this, but it's a lot of fun, and it's just for kids, it's just a blast. Hopefully we'll have good weather. Look forward to it every year. Woody's going to cover, I hope, dump the junk, the wood cutting. I'm going to, let's see, Lauren covered the Centennial Celebration. No stone left unturned. Everybody did a good job. I must have walked Macomb Street 10 times, and it was just a great time. Just a great time. No, we will not do, well, we might do another Centennial Celebration, but that's going to be somebody else's problem. But all the feedback I got is we need to do more things on Macomb Street, so, and she's nodding. So we're looking at another event. I mean, you got the groundwork. So anyway, it's great fun. We'll do it again, and we won't wait for 100 years. With that, let's see. Congratulations to the girls' golf team. They're here on league champs. Our attorney has a daughter involved in that, so they did well. Congratulations to them. Supervisor safety tip, this is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. 1 in 8 women, and this number is still staggering, 1 woman in 8 will be diagnosed with breast cancer. This year alone, almost 250,000 in the United States will be diagnosed. Take it very seriously. The administration recommended wait till you're 50. If it's in your family, get checked soon. It killed my mother. It took a long time, but in remission and out of remission and in surgery and remission again. It took a while, but it took my mom. It's important to my family. So let's see how that, nope, that's it for my odds and ends. I'll turn it over to the Township Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. To answer Trustee Melvesto's question, to update the board, I'll back up a little bit. There was a proposed event at the hangar, and there were a lot of questions regarding the actual applicant and the insurances. We held a meeting with staff and some of the elected officials attended, and the requirements were clarified to the groups involved, and as of this date, we have not received their revised application with the appropriate insurances, and that is pending, and we expect to receive that anytime. We're actually trying to, we don't want to wait till the 11th hour, and we're looking at our schedule, and we'll be providing a dead end, or a deadline, if you will. Yeah. So, that's the process.
Okay.
Nothing else to report.
Okay, that was my next question. Nothing else to report. With that, we'll move on to public comment as we bring this meeting to a close. Other than for Mr. Clark, any comments from the public present? In that case, I'll invite Mr. Clark. Mr. Nelson, did you have a comment?
Not this evening, thanks.
You look like you were going to race Woody to the microphone. Mr. Clark.
Woody Clark, Park Lane. Dump the junk is Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 4. Bring your treasures, somebody else might want them. Tires, not big ones, we'll take the tires, but not the huge ones. No electrical stuff, no paint. And then we're going to have November 1st, tree cutting. You're going to come down here to see Carol. You get a form, and you got to turn in your driver's license and so forth. Now, if you can't make it down here, you can come down to the Township Hall that day, and you're going to meet here before we go to these places out there, because last time we said come to Horse Mill Road, well, we're all done with Horse Mill. We got other places to hit. Plastic houses for ordinances. Are you going to make an ordinance for plastic houses?
We haven't discussed that yet, Woody. Plastic houses.
The tents that are popping up all over the community.
They've been out here a long time.
Oh,
the ones that hold boats and cars, Junk Incorporated.
Yeah, we are going to be looking at temporary structures.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
Okay, because they're the ones that are hiding.
They're hiding. Well, and it's much like this boats and trailers. Right. We have a big issue like that. We like to have it all done at once rather than piecemeal.
Because they are.
That is one of the issues on our list.
There are boats sitting inside them suckers.
Yep.
Okay, now we'll go to Horse Mill Road. When are we going to see the person to come out and do the fixing prior to the dirt chip seal? They were supposed to come out this year, fix the properties. I see they're putting out red signs in the road, but I don't see any progress past the red paint. Also, 8189, I told Dale about it. There's a lump and a bump.
8189.
8119, Horse Mill.
Horse Mill. I'll look at it myself, Woody, just for you.
No, you look at it for the people that live on that road.
Trustee Budney, the contractor that's doing the base repairs may or may not do it this fall
year
because of the weather. They're going to try to get it in, but they don't want to start something and not
and have it sit. Yeah, you definitely don't want that.
Because you're running out of time for asphalt.
Yes, we are.
Also, we brought this up last meeting about a building across the road. It looks empty. Ted, is it?
Across the road where? No.
Because there's nothing there.
Well, there's a lot inside.
But
their accountant's still working.
Our accountant's still working. They have gone dormant for a period of time. I'm guessing it's going to probably be about 6 months, and we'll see what happens. I don't know what's going to happen.
Okay.
But they're paying their rent.
That's a good part, because I don't see any trucks outside. So
no, they're
taking it from
the whole operation right now is idle.
Okay, thanks, Ted. I ran across this on the internet for those fixing psoriasis by Laser Treatments now. And this site here, I don't know who's zip, but it's Xtrac, xtrac.com. You go to your search engine and put that in there, and if you have a psoriasis problem, it might be able to fix it through laser. Next thing is, oh, yeah, good night, Miss Lily. Thank you, Mr. Clark. Other comments from the public present? All right, gone. With none offered, Mr. Budney.
I move that we adjourn.
Support.
Seconded by Trustee Smith. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none offered. I'll call the meeting adjourned at 9:15. Good night. Thanks for coming. Thanks for joining us at this.